outreach and communications person for Maryland Able, my favorite part is just having the opportunity to go around the state of Maryland and connect with people with disabilities themselves and their families. And I miss it so much because of, you know, the pandemic and everything. So just to have this virtual format is fantastic. And I really do appreciate it. So thank you to Abilities Network for hosting tonight. I do like to tell people that in addition to working for Maryland Able, I am also a parent of a child, a 16-year-old daughter who has multiple disabilities. So I like to share that because, you know, I feel like I have some practical experience with ABLE accounts as well, and I like to include in my presentation some of the ways that an ABLE account has benefited my daughter Lily and also our family. And I also have some of that day-to-day experience of actually managing the ABLE account as her authorized legal representative. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to kind of pull in some real life examples of things that have happened for us, and I think that kind of helps to make it a little more digestible. So my plan for tonight is, because I know some of you, I always get a mixture. I got people sometimes that have heard nothing about Maryland Able and they're just seeking information. It's their first time hearing about it. Others have heard about it multiple times and they want to learn more. And some of you even may have an ABLE account and you've started it, but you want to learn how to use it more to the advantage of your family member or for yourself. So that's what I'm going to do, is go over the whole program, do a basic overview. We're going to start with the ABLE legislation and how it impacts ABLE accounts nationwide, because most states are open for national enrollment. You may choose to go with Maryland, you may choose to be with someone else. And then we're going to talk about the state of Maryland's plan and things that are unique to us. So that's my plan. After each major section, I'm going to do a little check-in with everybody, make sure there's no questions before I move on. And as Janice said, while I'm talking and you're thinking of things, if you want to use your chat feature and type out questions, and she can help me get to those questions when I end that section, and we'll definitely have plenty of time at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Let's see. Go. All right. Just by a thumbs up, is everyone able to see my Maryland Able slide? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, and here we go. Let's just start with, you know, what is Maryland Able? Well, basically, it's just a way for people with disabilities and their families to be able to save money without jeopardizing those state or federal means tested benefits, things such as SSI and Medicaid and waiver services. So we know that for folks that are receiving SSI cash benefits, you know, they're relying on these benefits, but for decades, there's been this asset limitation. I believe it actually started in 1967 is when Social Security Administration said that there was this $2,000 asset limit. If anyone were to exceed that amount of money in any savings or checking account, then their benefits would be jeopardized. So Maryland Able was a landmark legislation that took about 20, oh my gosh, it was many years, decades of people advocating for a better way to be able to conserve resources without losing SSI cash benefits. And that's where the ABLE legislation comes into play. So in 2014, under the Obama administration, they signed into law the Stephen A. Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. And that's where we get ABLE. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And this gave, it was a federal legislation that gave states across the country the ability to open ABLE programs so that people could save above that $2,000 limit. But it did not federally mandate that states open programs, and it did not give them any funding to start programs. So that's why it's taken some time to get ABLE programs up and running around the country. Currently, there's 42 programs, 42 states, including the District of Columbia, that have ABLE programs. And Maryland was signed into law back in 2016. We didn't actually launch our program until 2017, and that's why it's taken a little time here in Maryland as well to get the word out about the program. I do like to just point out that ABLE legislation is part of the Internal Revenue Code. And the reason this is kind of a big deal to point out is a lot of people think that because it impacts their, it's SSI, there's this asset limitation. Lots of people assume that ABLE legislation falls under Social Security law, and it does not. We're not part of SSA. We are not part of DDA. So a lot of people think that we're subject to DDA regulations, and that's not the case. We're actually part of the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. Some of you may have heard of Maryland 529. That's our college savings plan. And we are we're sisters in this agency in that we're both under the same Internal Revenue Code. We share a board of directors. We share the same executive director, but we are 529A in the regulations. And I also like to point this out because there are certain things that as the IRS changes laws and updates things, it will impact ABLE as well. And it's usually always for the better. So that's a good thing. All right, let's go ahead and start off here with the eligibility criteria for having an ABLE account. It's basically you have to meet two criteria. The first is that you had to have developed the disability prior to your 26th birthday. There's a big myth out there. People say, oh man, I wanted to open an ABLE account, but I'm 29 now. I can't open an ABLE account because I'm 29. No, that's not the case. You can have an ABLE account at any age. Our youngest account holder, I think, is now about 4 or 5 months old, and our oldest is in his late 80s. So the important thing to remember about this age is that the onset of the disability had to occur before the 26th birthday. If sometimes we encounter folks that come along and say, my son, he's he's in his 60s and he has autism, but we didn't get a diagnosis before he was 26 because back then they didn't even know what autism was. So if that's the case and there's somebody that that is an older person that may not have received their official diagnosis until later in life, that's not a problem as long as a physician is able to provide a sign off saying that there's documentation that exists that the person had those symptoms prior to the age of 26, that'll work as well. The second criteria is that you have to meet the Social Security's definition of a disability. So when people are enrolling in ABLE, one of the first things that they'll ask you, they'll prompt, this question will come up with a prompter and it'll say, are you currently receiving SSI or SSDI? And the reason it asks that is because if the answer is yes to that question, then we know that you meet the Social Security definition of a disability. Sometimes we talk with folks who are under the age of 18 and they're not receiving SSI at the time. And that's not uncommon because sometimes, case in point, my daughter Lily is 16. She does not receive SSI at this point because they're looking at our entire family's income, whereas when she turns 18, they'll be looking at just her income, and she will most definitely qualify because of the nature of her disability. So that's the other myth, is that you have to be receiving SSI or SSDI to have an ABLE account, and that is not the case, as long as you have a disability that meets their criteria. Let's just do a little check-in here about the eligibility process. Anybody have any questions about that?
So let me just go back through our chat really quick. I'm not sure what section this would be, but someone was asking, can the ABLE account receive funds from a trust or a life insurance policy? I'm not sure if that's something from a future section or not, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
That will be a future section, but the short answer is yes.
All right.
We'll explain it a little bit later because it's subject to the standard contribution, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as long as we're all good with the criteria, we'll hop on to the next part, which is account management. It's important to note that unlike a trust, the ABLE account is owned by the person with the disability. So they're both the owner and the beneficiary. This is unique because I know sometimes with Maryland 529 college savings plans, you know, a parent could open up that account and be the owner of the 529 account, but the beneficiary would be a child. But in the case of ABLE, the person with the disability is the owner and the beneficiary. We do realize that if an account holder is under the age of 18, they're going to have an adult sign on. Just again, my daughter's 16 years old. She does, you know, she can't have her own bank account. She has to have an adult on there with her. So we automatically qualify as the authorized legal representative. We also know that a good portion of our ABLE account holders, they may need help managing their account, okay, because of their needs. And that's fine. If someone wants to have an authorized legal representative, it's important to note that once the individual is 18 years of age, they have to provide consent for someone to be on their account, because this is a financial account, and like everything after we turn 18, you know, you have to give consent. That is something that can be done in a couple of ways. If you have a family member who has a disability and you have power of attorney over property, then that would be one way to serve as the ALR. The second way is that you have guardianship over your family member. And the third way is Maryland ABLE makes a form available on our website. It's called the Limited Power of Attorney. And this is something that you don't need to consult an attorney for. It's already been done. The Assistant Attorney General for the state of Maryland has created a form that you can just download. You would get the person, the account holder's signature and the ALR signature in front of a notary, and then you can just upload that document and send it in. There's no cost to doing it by, you know, taking it to an attorney or anything. It's already figured out. All you need is it to be notarized. And this is we call it a limited power of attorney because it's not going to work for any other bank account that they would have. It's specific to ABLE. If your family member should go into the hospital and you needed to make medical decisions, it doesn't apply there because it's not a medical power of attorney. It's just for the ABLE account. But it is one way of, if you're not sure yet what you want to do as far as seeking legal help for power of attorney over property or you know, medical or whatever. It is a nice option. Any questions about the ALR process or account management process?
We have one coming in. Do they have to be a legal guardian of property? So if you don't own, you know, your condo or a car, something like that.
So the term power of attorney over property just means that it's referring to the person's assets, whether it be a checking account, a car, whatever. Power of attorney over person usually refers to their medical and those kind of decisions. So that's just a legal term that they use to say that it refers to financial account.
And then do you know where the limited power of attorney form is located? So if someone wants to set up their ABLE account and, you know, be the limited POA on there, where can they find that form?
On our website,
Okay.
on the www.marylandable.org. If you look at the very bottom of any of the pages on our website, it'll give you a section called Forms. And all the forms that you'll need for various things are located there. You can just print one off and take it to the notary.
Great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great.
And you know, if I had to find a notary recently and I was so worried because I didn't know where I was going to get one, and it turns out they're at the UPS store.
Hey.
If you're right, I normally go to the library and the library's not open. So
thank you for telling me that. That's great, because I didn't even think about that as a resource. But I usually recommend folks go to the library, but it's close to your bank. They always have someone at the branch that has one. But you know, whatever is most convenient, it can be anywhere. But UPS store, that's a great idea.
Definitely. And I think at the bank, I mean, at least the banks I've heard of recently, you have to make an appointment to go in now too. Well, so that might be something to consider too.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep. So I think that's our questions for that section.
All
Oh,
right.
wait, we got another one.
Ooh,
Okay.
all right.
All right, here we go. Coming in hot. It says, I have a legal guardianship of person, but not legal guardianship of property for my son. Or do I need legal guardianship of property?
I believe the answer to that is yes. So you don't have to go to an attorney to get legal guardianship of property. You could just use the limited power of attorney form over the property. I mean, if you have, I'm not really, because I'm not an attorney and I don't know, there's so many different versions of things. I believe that if you have power of attorney over person, it's just person and not property. So you could all, I mean, it doesn't hurt to just get the form filled out for limited power of attorney over able.
Just to make sure your bases are covered.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right.
Okay, so let's look at some of the key features of an ABLE account. And that is that we offer online enrollment. It's very easy to set it up online. It's just a click of a button and then it takes you through a series of questions that helps you set up the account. We do also offer, one of the few states that does, a paper enrollment, because some folks, they just don't like to do things online, or they don't trust computers with things, and that's fine. Just go onto our website. You can download the forms to enroll on the forms section of the website as well. It makes it, if you do manage your account online, it just makes it really easy to access the funds, make those contributions, make withdrawals, because you don't have to go to the bank and write a check, reimburse. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So there's, and the stuff that I'm talking about right now is actually something that's going to apply to ABLE programs in all of the states that have programs. This is going to be for everybody. So right now, the annual standard contribution for an ABLE account is $15,000 per calendar year. That means that once you contribute $15,000 to your ABLE account is no longer going to accept any contributions for that calendar year. It's sort of like a little built-in mechanism. It won't let you do it because that is the guidelines that we have established under the Internal Revenue Code. And this is one of those numbers that can change from year to year. When we launched our program, our annual contribution limit was $13,000 a year, and then it went up to 15. And this is tied to the gift tax law. And this is something that's in the Internal Revenue Code that says anybody can give anybody a gift as long as it's $15,000 and under, and they don't have to pay taxes on that gift. So as this gift tax law changes and goes up, so will the annual contributions for Maryland ABLE. The next thing that we have to think about when we're talking about numbers is that, remember we talked about that $2,000 asset limitation imposed by SSI. Well, now it makes it possible for people with disabilities who have an ABLE account can save or invest up to $100,000 in their ABLE account before it impacts those SSI cash benefits. That is a huge game changer for a lot of people. I mean, for years, people were having to watch that $2,000 cap, making sure they didn't go over it, oftentimes being forced to spend down some of the money so they didn't become over-resourced and lose their benefits, only to find out a couple months later they had major dental work that was needed and they really wanted to be able to use the money that they had saved, but they had to spend down on a new recliner or something that they really didn't need at the time. So this has really been a game changer for people with disabilities, allowing them to save up for what they need and what's important to them. And also, you know, save for large ticket items. Some people want to be able to have a place of their own, and they're saving for like a down payment for the first month's rent. I mean, things that are these large ticket items, it's really been beneficial. One of the things I like to point out about that $100,000 limit is, even if someone were to exceed $100,000 in an ABLE account, here's what would happen. They would no longer receive their SSI cash benefit, but they would not be disenrolled from Social Security. So here's the difference. Money in an ABLE account, you could have above $100,000. They would suspend your payments. You would no longer get the cash payment every month, but you wouldn't be disenrolled. outside of an ABLE account, if you go over $2,000, after a period of time of having more than $2,000, you would actually become disenrolled and at some point would have to reapply for benefits. So we all know how hard it is to get these benefits. Nobody wants to do that again. So that is a nice feature. The other thing is that even if you were to exceed the $100,000, you would not lose the Medicaid or any waivers attached to Medicaid. So that's a big deal as well. At any point, if your balance were to fall below $100,000 in your ABLE account, since you have not been deactivated, you're still with Social Security, you would be able to start receiving those benefits once it fell below $100,000. And people always say, well, how are they going to know? How are they going to know my balance fell below $100,000? Well, that's simple, because every month the program manager for Maryland ABLE has to send a report to Social Security listing every person's balance. If they're receiving SSI, they want to know how much is in their ABLE account. So that's how they know. You're able to save those, save or invest money, again, without losing the SSI or any of the waiver services. And I know that's that's really important, especially if people are receiving food, housing, or energy assistance. We don't want to have to lose those benefits and reapply, because they're just getting harder and harder to come by. There are no federal or state taxes on the earnings while the funds are in your ABLE account. And you're also not going to be taxed on the earnings when you withdraw the money from the ABLE account, as long as you're using it on what we call qualified disability expenses. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just one second. I just want to mention one other thing before we hop off this slide, and that is that rollovers are possible to another state ABLE plan if the person chooses. So sometimes I hear from people that say, hey, back when ABLE first started, Ohio was the only state that had ABLE programs, and I want to transfer my money to a Maryland ABLE account. That is fine to do that. So just wanted to mention that. So before we hop onto QDEs, let's just talk about any of the things you might have questions on regarding that standard contribution limit or the $100,000. Any questions regarding that?
Yeah, we have a couple, and I think everyone will benefit from these answers. All right, who can make contributions to a person's ABLE account? We know that with a 529, parents and grandparents, whoever can, contribute to that. Is that the same with an ABLE account?
Yes.
Awesome.
That's one of the great things is contributions to an ABLE account can come from many, many different sources. It can come from the account holder's own money, from their job, their paycheck. It can come from family, friends. It can be back payments that you get. Sometimes people will get a back payment and they need to do something with that money before they get over-resourced. Small inheritances. And the reason I say small inheritances, that remember you're subject to that $15,000 a year annual contribution. So if great aunt Elizabeth passes away and unbeknownst to you has left you or your family member $100,000, can't put $100,000 into an ABLE account because you have a $15,000 a year asset. A contribution level, sorry about that. So that's where a special needs trust comes into effect. If there's a large inheritance, sometimes there's settlements from that come in, small settlements, as long as you don't exceed that 15,000, that can go in there. And also rollovers from 529 college savings plans. But awesome. Again, just, ladling that out so it doesn't go over the 15,000 limit.
Okay. And then our next question says, when reporting assets for annual recertification for an HOC housing voucher, do you need to report Maryland ABLE balance? Can SSA be deposited directly into your ABLE into an account? Okay.
So that seems like there's a little two parts in that question, right? First, we do the
recertification.
With the recertification, ABLE accounts are a protected account. It doesn't count for FAFSA. It doesn't count for HUD vouchers. It's a protected asset. It doesn't count against SSI. So that's how that goes.
So you would not need to report it.
You can report it if you want. They just can't count it against you.
Okay. Gotcha.
because it's a protected account.
Right. And then the second part said, can SSA be deposited directly into account?
That's dependent upon whether or not the person has a rep payee. If they don't have a rep payee, they can deposit their money directly into an ABLE account. If they have a rep payee that's putting it into another account, then it would have to be a separate one.
Okay.
It would have to just get transferred into the account.
And then can automatic payments to the ABLE account be set up from a person's checking account?
If it's the ALR, then yes, that can be an automatic payment set up that way. So for example, in my case, again, my daughter's 16, she doesn't have a job yet. She doesn't receive any services. So all the money that's going into her ABLE account is mostly coming from her dad and I. We've had family members and friends that contribute from time to time. But so what I've done is I've linked my checking account to the ABLE account because I've set up monthly contributions, and that's how that works, but I'm serving as the ALR. But people can go online to this online gifting platform, and they can do a contribution every month if they want, change the amount from monthly, weekly, however you want to do it, annually. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. I think that is all of our questions for this section.
All right. Just one more little thing about the rollovers from 529s. Again, that is subject to that $15,000 annual contribution limit. So if you have $30,000 in a 529 account, you could only do $15,000 a year. But what's great about it is with a a lot of people have opened up 529 accounts when their kids were younger, and they may decide, I don't know that my son or daughter is going to go the traditional college experience. I'm thinking that they may go to a community college or whatever. Transferring it to the ABLE account, you can still use it for education, room and board, tuition, books, but now you can also use it for all kinds of other things. So let's skip over the next slide. We'll go to qualified disability expenses and see what types of things you can use the money in the ABLE account for. What you'll see on this slide is just general categories. It's not meant to be inclusive of everything, but it gives you some ideas. So under health, that could be a gym membership. It could be your co-pays to a doctor, medications. Housing does cover rent and mortgage. Education can be books, tutoring, college tuition. It could be taking a craft class at the college, anything like that. Employment training and support. So if you need some additional job coaching beyond what your provider agency is able to provide, that could be something. Transportation can be taxis, Ubers, could be plane transportation. It could also be purchasing a car. Basic living expenses would be your electric, phone, food. Assistive technology can be laptops. It could be hearing aids. It could be something as simple as a cell phone. Financial management and legal fees. So if you did need to, consult a financial advisor or an attorney, or an attorney to set up a special needs trust, you could use the money in the ABLE account to help pay for those legal fees. And then funeral and burial expenses as well. So these are just some of the things that you can use it for. But if you guys remember anything at all about what we talked about with qualified disability expenses, I hope it'll be this. And that is that the way a qualified disability expense is defined is it would be anything or any service that supports you or your family member in his health, independence, or quality of life. So that's a broad category, right? Really broad. Health, independence, or quality of life. And let me just share a little story. My daughter wanted to participate in a dance class, a ballet class. And I signed her up for the class, paid for it with her ABLE account. That certainly qualified under health. It was physical fitness, quality of life. She was going to be included in a typical community class. I had no problem justifying that. In order to take a ballet class, however, you need ballet shoes, right? and 9 months go in the fall and the springtime, it's time to do a recital. They all wear the same costumes. I paid for her ballet shoes, her costumes, all the way down to the little rhinestone clips that went in her hair, because that was all required in order for her to participate in the recital. So you may look at my receipts and say, okay, well, I guess I understand why a dance class benefits her health. But what about these shoes? And what about these rhinestone clips? So it just really depends on how you tie it in. So there's nobody at Maryland Able that is going through everybody's expenses. There's only 2 employees for the state. So it's impossible even if we wanted to. Plus we have no access to your accounts. But anyway, the only person that would ever ask you to justify an expense would be the IRS. This is where it comes back to, oh, Able's part of the Internal Revenue Code. So in the event of an audit, and with an Able account, you are not any more likely to get an audit, but you're not any less likely to be audited by the IRS either. In the event of an audit, you're going to need to just save your receipts for things that you purchased with the funds from your Able account. And if I had to sit down across from an IRS auditor and he said, what's this rhinestone clip? I'd be able to say, hey, listen, she can't participate in an inclusive dance class unless she's wearing the exact same costume as everybody else. And that was part of the dance class. So does that help a little bit to figure out like what is, how to justify and what counts? I hope that helps a little. Is there any questions about qualified disability expenses?
So we do have a question, and I think you might be getting into this later, but we'll check and see. So someone says, how did you pay for the dance class? Did you pay for it directly or withdraw funds? And how do you document this?
Okay.
Because if we have an Able account, we want to use it. How do we do that? And how do we save everything we need to save in case we are audited and in case we need to prove that this is a health wellness?
Yes. So we're going to talk about it in a little bit down the road, but I'm going to jump into it a little bit here, because with an Able account, there is no brick and mortar building of the Bank of Able, right? So this is an online banking product. And you're going to have to link an existing checking or savings account to an Able account. That's how you're going to get money into your Able account, and that's how you're going to get money out. That's one way of getting the money out. The second way is our prepaid card, which I'm going to talk about a little bit as well. So to answer your question, I personally like having the prepaid card because I go to the doctor's office for copays, I swipe her card. If I, need to buy her school supplies, I swipe her card at Target. To pay for the dance class, I unfortunately, we had a switch over in our vendor for our prepaid card, so I didn't have an activated prepaid card at the time, so I had to put it on my own credit card. Okay. Then what I did is I went into the Able account. It was like $250 or whatever, and I transferred $250 out of her Able account back into my checking account to reimburse myself. And then I printed the receipts off that said, dance class September through May, $250, and I just keep that in a file. But with the prepaid card, all the other things I have on the prepaid card, that's her card. It maintains a list of all the expenditures on it, which is a really nice feature. Okay, any other questions about the QDEs?
That is our only one for right now, so.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Whoopsie, let me pop back real quick to the Able to Work Act, which is really a cool addition to Able programs. And that is, if you have a person who has an Able account who is working and they are not contributing to a 401k or any type of retirement plan, or their employer is not contributing to a retirement plan on their behalf, they are actually able to contribute above and beyond that $15,000 limit. They are eligible to contribute up to $12,490. Okay, so the way this works is that figure is going to change again from year to year. Whatever the IRS sets that federal poverty level of a one-person household, that is $12,490 for the year 2020. This will change. It'll go up a little bit in 2021. But let's just say that you are earning a salary of $10,000. If that's your salary for the year, you can't contribute an additional $12,000. You could only contribute $10,000. Okay, but it gives you the opportunity to make contributions above that $15,000 limit. And if anyone that you think may be eligible for this feature, what I recommend is when you make contributions to the ABLE account, it's always going to ask you every time you make a contribution. It's going to say, is this part of the standard contribution or is this part of ABLE to work? If it's coming from the ABLE account owner, always code it as ABLE to work. Because then if anybody else, family or friends or a small inheritance comes in, you still have room in that little pot from the 15,000. So I always like to tell people to code it ABLE to work if it's coming from the account holder who is employed. Okay?
So Kelly, just really quickly to recap, I just want us to say it again because I think this is an amazing feature. We have so many people that are working part-time and they're contributing to their own ABLE accounts. So if you are a person or your son or daughter is working and they're contributing to their own ABLE account, if
Yes.
you're helping them deposit it, please
Yes.
mark it as ABLE to work. And that way you could donate separately and have an increased savings, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I tell you what, we currently have 168 Maryland ABLE account holders that are working, contributing to their own ABLE account from their employment, and they have saved over, all of them together, and all these accounts have saved over $430,000.
That's amazing.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Right.
For people that were once told, no, you don't even ever want to go to work because you're going to lose all your benefits. They're working and they're contributing to their ABLE account, and together collectively have saved $430,000. I mean, of all the numbers that I get reports on, this is my favorite one. I'm so proud of everyone that's doing this. It's pretty amazing. So yes, just to confirm, always have them coded ABLE to work, and that leaves that extra fund available for family or friends that want to contribute.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Maryland ABLE because, you know, when they gave us the legislation for ABLE accounts, everyone had to follow the same basic guidelines, but they let each program have a little bit of flexibility in how they structure their fees and the types of features that they offer. So here in Maryland, when you open up your ABLE account, you have to start with a $25 minimum deposit. That's not a fee, that's the person's own money, but that's what it takes to establish the account. From that point on, you decide how much money you want to put in and when you want to put it in. And that can be done by electronic transfer, however you want to do it, direct deposit. It could be setting up scheduled payments. It doesn't matter, but as long as it's a minimum of $10. My daughter gets a little tiny allowance, a little allowance, and she always wants to put all her money in her ABLE account, but she only gets $4 a week allowance. So, you know, she always says, put my $4 in my ABLE account. And I say, I have to wait till we save up 10. And that's how that works. But, you know, it's teaching her a little bit about savings and whatnot. I do need to just point out, I got to throw in one number to confuse everybody, and that is that ABLE will accept contributions up to $500,000. So this is the lifetime account limit. That after $500,000, I hate to say it, guys, after $500,000, you can't put any more money in there. I hope everybody has that problem. I hope everybody runs into this problem. They're saying, Kelly, doggone it, I had more than that I wanted to put in. But this number, again, changes from time to time. When we opened, it was $350,000. But because we're tied in the code with Maryland 529, this is actually their contribution lifetime limit, because the actuaries did the math and they said a child born today, by the time they are able to go to college, this will be the cost of college tuition, $500,000. Wow. Fun fact of the day, but that's the way it is. So just want to let people know that Maryland is open for national enrollment. So if you live in Maryland and you want a Maryland ABLE account, that's great. We do have other people from other states that enroll in Maryland because our fee structures are some of the lowest of all the programs. So other people want to enroll here. Or if you live here now and you're saying, oh, I don't know, you know what, we're in the military, we may move, what's going to happen to my ABLE account? You can take it with you, or you can enroll in the program. You can transfer it over or roll it over to the state that you live in if they have an ABLE program. Okay. So some of our account features that we have that is unique to Maryland is we have a gifting page, a prepaid card, and payroll deduction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Real quick about the gifting page. I know you all are familiar with like a GoFundMe page where people can make contributions. You don't access their bank account, you just make a contribution. The difference is with GoFundMe is they'll charge you a certain fee to, you know, so the person doesn't get all of the money that you donated. It goes as part of it does go to administrative fee for GoFundMe. But with a Maryland ABLE accounts gifting page, 100% of what you put in goes to their gifting page. And this is a really cool feature because sometimes people are trying to save up for something, a really big ticket item. It could be car, it could be rent, it could be braces, I don't know, whatever. But people do enjoy this feature. I think I found out last year, 71 people, as of our end of our fiscal year, so as of June, 71 ABLE account holders were using their gifting page, and of all of them together received over $185,000 in gifts collectively. So people do use the gifting page. Just send a link by email or on, you know, social media site. You can send a link to the gifting page with a little message. Prepaid card. Love the prepaid card because it's really easy access. I am able to use that prepaid card anywhere that Visa and MasterCard is accepted, in stores or online. It's a great way for me to teach my daughter about saving and spending her money and budgeting her money. So with a prepaid card, it's not a line of credit. So it's not a typical like Visa or MasterCard. It is actually linked to your ABLE account. And what you do is you load funds from the ABLE account onto this card. Similar to like when you buy somebody a Visa gift card or an American Express gift card, you decide how much you want to put on that, how much you want to put on the card. So what I do is I load a certain amount of money from the ABLE account onto the prepaid card, and I give it to Lily, and it gives her an opportunity to practice spending money. And I also have linked her prepaid card with her orthodontic bill and her phone, her cell phone. Again, these are both, all of these are, you know, expenses, qualified disability expenses, but it helps her to understand, oh, yeah, this phone I have right here, it's not free. Somebody pays for this. And guess what? It's coming out of my ABLE account. This is a life lesson that, you know, obviously we're still paying for it because we're contributing the money, but I want her to begin to understand about monthly expenses, living expenses, and it gives her a chance to practice with her card as well. The really cool features on it is it keeps track of all of the categories where you spent your money. You can upload receipts from a store to be kept there. You can turn the card on or off. If you give it to your family member and they've misplaced it, you just go log on to your ABLE account, turn it off so that if it was lost or stolen, nobody could use it. You can set spending limits on there. You can even block certain purchases if you needed to do that. But it's a good tool for teaching budgeting. I could do an entire 30-minute webinar on the prepaid card as a budgeting tool. But the important thing to note is there is a fee of $1.25 to have the ABLE card. It doesn't automatically come with the ABLE account. You have to opt into it, and there is an additional fee of $1.25, and that is what the bank charges us, the bank that you know, runs this credit card. That's what they charge us, so we pass that along. Some people say, oh yeah, this is a great tool, I want it. Other people we find are using their ABLE account just strictly for long-term savings. For them, it doesn't make any sense to have an ABLE prepaid card you're paying $1.25 for when you're not accessing the funds in the account. They're just putting it in there, saving it long-term. So you know, it's a personal choice. Okay, again, the payroll deduction, we are just about ready to go to make this a feature that's available. This is only though to the account holder and the ALR at this point. The tax incentives. So with Maryland ABLE, if somebody contributes money to the ABLE account and they are a Maryland state taxpayer, they can use those contributions as an income deduction on their Maryland state taxes. This doesn't apply to federal, but it does give them, it does give them the opportunity to take this deduction on their income taxes. So I remember the first couple times I heard about ABLE, I was like, oh gosh, you know, oh, Lily's had so many medical expenses. We just don't have any extra money to open an ABLE account. But then it occurred to me, there was things I was paying for her every single month, her cell phone, her braces, you know, her doctor copays. We pay for this whether she has an ABLE account or not. And then I decided one year I would take some money from our tax refund and I funded her ABLE account. And that way I put money in there. I got a tax, my husband and I took a tax deduction. And then I'm still paying for her expenses, but I'm getting a tax advantage for doing it. So that's kind of how that works. So this is something that anybody, not just the ALR, can use. It could be friends, family, anybody that makes a gift on her gifting page can take that off of their income for Maryland state taxes. This doesn't work for Grandma and Aunt Elizabeth who live out of state though, because they don't pay Maryland taxes. Okay. Account fees. There is a $35 annual maintenance fee that comes with the account. It is prorated, however. So people that opened an ABLE account, say yesterday, okay, they're not going to pay $35 for the year because they didn't have the account January through September. They just opened it up. It also comes out quarterly at $8.75, so you don't have to pay it all at one time. There are asset-based fees if people choose the investment option, and we're going to get to those different options in a second. So when you have the money in your ABLE account, you have a couple of choices. You can keep it all in what we call the cash savings option. And this is an FDIC insured banking product, very similar to your savings account that you have at M&T or PNC, any of your banks. The other option that you could do is the investment option. This means that you're actually taking the funds in your ABLE account and purchasing investments. Like you know, think of mutual funds and things like that, where there's you've purchased a combination of stocks and bonds. So we have three choices. We have the conservative option, where the money is used, the ABLE funds are used to purchase 80% of it in bonds and 20% in stocks. Very conservative. The moderate option is a 50-50 split between stocks and bonds, and the aggressive option is about a little over 80% buying stocks, and about 16%, I think, is in bonds. So it's totally up to the account holder or the authorized, or the ALR can make a decision. Cash option is fine. The investment option is fine too. You can do a split between the two. Say, I don't know, you know, I'm not really, haven't done a lot of investing. I'll keep, you know, I don't know, 80% in my cash option, but I want to try investing a little bit. I'll put 20% of it in the investment option. You can change that up to 2 times a calendar year. So let's just say the stock market's going great and you decide you want to put some in the investment option. That's great. A couple months go by, things start, you know, going south a little bit. And you're like, I don't know, I'm getting a little scared of this. I'm going to put it all back in the cash option. You're able to do that up to twice a year. Okay. But again, it's really going to depend on each person and their needs. Some people are putting money in the ABLE account for their family member and they're just letting it ride. They don't want to touch it until, you know, way down the road. So they may want to go with an investment strategy as opposed to a cash savings. Other people are like, no, I'm putting money in there every month, but I'm using the money in my ABLE account. So I'm not going to bother putting in investments because the cash option money comes out right away and you're able to, you know, make those purchases. It's a very individualized choice. With enrollment, you can do that right from our website. I do recommend, however, that if you are interested in an ABLE account, that you actually type in our URL address, which is www.marylandable.org. Because if you just go to Google and you type in Maryland ABLE, what is going to happen is it's going to pop up something that says ABLE now in Maryland. And people go in there, they enroll, and then then it comes tax time and they realize that they accidentally enrolled in the Virginia program called Able Now. So if you want a Maryland Able account, then I would say go type in our address. Once you're there, you'll see that we have a really helpful website with frequently asked questions, all the forms that you need, and our complete program disclosure book that talks about everything you ever wanted to know about Maryland Able. If you're ready to open an Able account, there's a little button on the screen that says Let's Go. It's a little red button, and you can click on that. It's going to take you through a series of questions. You'll have to have some basic information with you when you're ready to do that, like the social security number of the account holder. And if there's going to be an ALR, you want that person's social security number and that linked bank account that you're gonna put it to. Okay, just bear in mind that you don't always have to keep the same linked bank account. For example, right now I've linked the bank, my daughter's Able account, to my personal checking account, because her dad and I are the ones that are putting the money in. Once she turns 18 and gets SSI, or hopefully has a job, she'll have her own checking account. Then we can switch it over and link the Able account to her checking account. It really, once again, is a very individualized choice, whatever works best for the account holder or ALR. So I know I covered a lot of information. Let me pause here for a minute and see if we have any questions about the enrollment process.
We sure do. And actually, if you can, I don't know if we can go back to the slide where it said the 500,000 lifetime limit. We had a lot of questions about that.
I know, darn it. I wish I didn't have to bring this out all the time, but since it's part of our guidelines, I have to bring it up. That $500,000 limit is the maximum amount that you can have in an Able account with that, before they'll say, no more contributions, no more. They'll stop.
So the 100,000 is before it affects benefits. Between 100 and 500, it will affect your benefits. But once you get to 500, should anyone be so lucky as I hope to in my lifetime.
Right, yes.
Once you get to 500, that's kind of, there's no more adding to the
right until it falls below $500,000. So let's just say you had $500,000.
Have to do a spend down.
You you want to put a wheelchair ramp on your house.
Sure.
And you spend $50,000 and now it's down to $450. You can start making contributions again. Yeah.
Okay.
So the difference between the $100,000, and that's really good to point this out, the $100,000 is the amount that you can have in your Able account. But if you get to that amount, you're going to forfeit your monthly cash benefit. You will not be disenrolled from Social Security, but they're no longer going to send you your monthly SSI check. Right. If you fall below that $100,000, let's say you put that wheelchair ramp on, right? You spent 20 grand. Now you're down to $80,000. What's going to happen is, boom, your benefits are going to get turned back on again. And you're going to start receiving that SSI benefit again.
Yes. And from what I was understanding, if you're at 100,000 and it falls below 100,000, because the Able account program manager is sending that list, we as parents wouldn't need to do anything to get re-enrolled in those benefits. It would be automatic. Is that correct? Or to get them restarted, since you don't lose enrollment.
Yes. In theory, that is the way it is supposed to work. But has this ever been tested? No. And why? Because in Maryland Able, we've only been open for 3 years. So if a person it'll be our 3rd year coming up, put in $15,000 a year for the 3 years, they'd have $45,000, right?
Right.
If they were able to qualify for Able to Work, oh man, this is where I'm going to have to do the math. But anyway, we couldn't have gotten to $100,000 yet. But
so it's a theory right now, and it'll be tested soon.
And will be tested when we get to when we forget that first account holder that's put in $15,000 of annual contributions, and then put in an additional $12,490 from Able to Work. We're going to find out. The proof will be in the pudding, but that is the way it is set up with Social Security right now.
Okay. And then we actually have a question about Able to Work as well. That is, are Able to Work deposits counted toward the $100,000 lifetime limit?
Yes.
Okay,
Going back to the slide here, I'm trying to find able to work.
sure.
It will count. It will definitely count towards that $100,000 limit.
Okay.
Yep.
And is enrollment limited to certain times of the year for Maryland Able accounts?
Nope, because we're online. People can do it 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You just go
Sure.
on there, and if you do it online, unlike like a college savings plan, they have open enrollment season.
Right.
We're open all year.
Very convenient. All right, open enrollment. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all our questions we have in our chat so far. Oh, wait, here we go. What about, oh, this is a very timely question, I think. If an individual receives unemployment, would that unemployment check qualify as able to work, since it would be replacing a paycheck?
So if the person gets an unemployment check,
Mm-hmm.
that would not, I don't think that, I'm really not sure legally how they would define that in terms of able to work, because they're currently
Okay.
not working. So it
Right.
may not apply. That is something you'd have to check
Right.
with an attorney about, because I don't know how they
Or
interpret
maybe
that
the unemployment
law.
office.
Or the unemployment office. Does it count as employment paid income, or is
I
that
don't
just a
know.
benefit that you're receiving as having paid into the system? So that is like one of those legal questions.
That is a good question.
Yeah, I don't even play a lawyer on TV, so I don't want to pretend
Right. We
to know
don't
the answer to
we
that.
don't want to give legal advice when we're not when we
Right.
haven't passed the bar.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Well, yes.
Okay.
So definitely for confirmation on that, check with unemployment or your
Right.
local attorney.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Or yeah. Just
Okay.
when we're talking about, do we have other questions too?
No, those are the only ones that we have right
Okay.
now. So we're good.
Okay. Just, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I just wanted to let you know that if you enroll in your ABLE account, and I know time's going to pass by and you're going to be like, gosh, Kelly told me about, the prepaid card. She told me about all these things. I don't remember anymore. You can always call our customer service team. They're available 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. and they're really helpful. They know a lot of they know how to do things online. You can just say, hey, this is my ABLE account number. I don't know how to make a transfer. And they will get your number on their screen, and you guys will share like the same screen. They can see what you're seeing, and they'll say, okay, you see that little button up there that says contribution? Click on it, and they'll walk you through everything. And I had to do that when I first opened my daughter's account too, because it's hard to, remember things if you don't do it all the time. How do I set up a monthly contribution? They'll walk you through that. Real helpful.
Okay, we actually just had another question come in.
Sure.
And it says, I'm my son's legal guardian. Once a year, I have to do an annual accounting of how much money I have spent on him. Is there an annual accounting of what's in the ABLE account? So like an end of year statement, or or what's been used rather.
So you can go onto your ABLE account and you can print out a transactions list of your withdrawals. You can do that, but Maryland ABLE doesn't require a reporting be sent to us or to anybody saying how you spent the money in the ABLE account. So we don't require that reporting. If you want to generate a report to see how much money was withdrawn or contributed, that you can do that online. You can look at your statements. You can also just run a transactions report that says, oh wow, this is all the things I spent money on. This is what the when the money came out, how much it was for.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, now we are out of questions for the moment.
Okay. Well, I want to do just a little brief review because I threw out a bunch of numbers there. $25 is that minimum deposit to open the account. It's not a fee. It belongs to the person. It stays in the account. But that is how much money it takes to actually initiate the account. After that, you decide how much you want to put in, as long as the next or future deposits are at least $10. That $35 is your annual account maintenance fee, and that's going to come out quarterly, and it's also prorated. $1.25 is if you choose the prepaid card option. Once you open an ABLE account, you have to go onto the little button that says prepaid card and ask for a prepaid card. It's not going to come automatically. The $15,000 is that standard annual contribution limit that everybody has to abide by. Those who are eligible for able to work can contribute up to that $12,490. Again, that's going to change every year if they're eligible. The $100,000 is the amount that can be contributed to your ABLE account before you impact the SSI cash benefits. But remember, it's important, even if you did go beyond that $100,000, you will not become disenrolled. You will be in a state of suspension. That's different than being disenrolled. And you will not lose Medicaid or waivers that are attached to Medicaid. The $500,000 is the lifetime account limit, which once you reach that, they're not going to accept any more donations until the balance falls below that amount. And $2,500 is your state income deduction per contributor per ABLE account. So some people have more than one family member that has an ABLE account that they can take a deduction for $2,500 per ABLE account, which is every little bit helps when it comes to taxes, right? So we want to, Betty Ann Mobley, she's our program director, myself. There's only 2 full-time employees for Maryland ABLE, but we want to stay connected with you. Please reach out to us. You'll see questions@marylandable.org. That's how you can get in touch with either one of us. If you have questions that you want to talk on the phone, our customer support team is there to help you. Our website's a very good resource. And also, follow us on Facebook, because we try to post things every week that's a good resource for ABLE accounts and for related things to financial planning. We also, if you go to our website, sign up for our newsletter. I will promise you this, I will not blow up your email box because I only send it out 4 times a year. But that's a good way to keep updated on how what's going on with Maryland ABLE. If different limits change, you'll know. Plus, there's an events page that'll tell you about any webinars that we're doing or any types of resource fairs. We did have Abilities Network as our host listed on our event page today, so that people could in the community that we're looking on the website could come, and we appreciate that. So we want to stay connected. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Thank you. Actually, Kelly, we have a couple more questions if you have time.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, here we go. So if the beneficiary passes away, what happens to the money in an ABLE account?
Excellent question. So we remember that the ABLE account is owned by the person with the disability. So it is going to become part of that person's
their estate.
Yes, their estate.
Yes.
Sorry, I just spaced on that.
That's okay.
It becomes part of their estate. So you can use the money in the ABLE account to pay any outstanding debts that they had.
Sure.
You can also use it to pay for final expenses such as burial, funeral, okay? But whatever money is left in that ABLE account is going to become part of their estate. And then, if they have a will that says all my money goes to my sister, then the money in the ABLE account would go to the sister. However, once that money is given to the sister, it is now no longer owned. It's not being received by a person who has a disability, okay? If the sister has a disability, you can roll it over to her ABLE account. But if you're receiving that money, what's going to happen is the person receiving it may have to pay taxes on the earnings, okay? Because it's a protected asset. So that person would have to pay some sort of tax on whatever money was earned in the ABLE account. We also have Maryland Medicaid has signed a letter stating that upon the passing of a person with an ABLE account, that they will not seek payback.
Oh, great.
But they ended the sentence by saying, unless federally mandated to do so. Okay. So apparently Medicaid money comes from 2 pots, federal money and state money. Maryland says we're not going to go and take money out of your ABLE account to reimburse ourselves. Now, if the federal government chooses to do that, they still can do that because they didn't say we'll never do that. Now, We've had several ABLE account holders pass away within our almost 3 years now. To date, nobody has recouped funds, federally or state. Neither one of that has happened. To our knowledge, there has been no one in any state that the federal government has come by and said, we paid for this nursing home, now give us this money back. Can I stand before you this day and say that the federal government will never do that? I can't, because they put that little clause in there to reserve the right to be able to do that. But,
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Okay. And then someone says, does the money withdrawn from the ABLE account count towards your income for the month, and does it become unprotected money?
99.9% no. And the reason I say that is because any money that you would take out of the ABLE account and you're spending on a qualified disability expense, as long as it's spent on a qualified disability expense, it does not count as an asset, because you're not going to put money into your ABLE account and protect it and then take it out of your account and put it in your checking account if you're not going to spend it. So the only time that it would count as income would be if you took it out of your ABLE account, put it back in your other savings or checking account. Just having put it in there for a period of time doesn't protect it forever. It has to be used in a qualified disability expense. And that is one area that when you have to watch it with mortgage or rent, okay? You can't say, okay, well, my rent is $500 a month. On January the 1st, I'm going to withdraw whatever 500 times 12 is. I'm just going to withdraw it all right now and just keep it in my savings account and pay my rent that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to withdraw it for the month that you're using it.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a couple more questions. So it says, someone without a disability inherits ABLE money. Do they have to pay taxes on earnings going forward or retroactively? So if someone without a disability inherits ABLE account money from an ABLE account holder who is deceased, does the person without the disability that was the beneficiary have to pay taxes on those earnings going forward or retroactively? If we don't know, we don't know, but I know that's a complicated question.
It is. I would definitely check with a tax accountant or a tax advisor about that. But I believe that it is whatever money is left in the ABLE account. It's not the money, it's not the interest they've earned over the lifetime of the account. I think is whatever is left, whatever the interest earned on the amount that's left. And they would pay, I don't know what the tax rate is for that type of inheritance. Right. But they would be subject to some tax because now that money has been saved and growing tax-free, but it's a special account only intended for a person with a disability. So if that person passes and it goes to somebody else, they would be paying taxes, not on the whole pot of money, but just on the earnings.
Right. Yeah. And then if the beneficiary dies, can the ABLE account be rolled over to someone else's special need trust? Like say if you have two sisters and one of them passes away and they both have a disability, can it be rolled over into the other sisters?
It cannot be rolled over to their special needs trust, but it can be rolled over to an ABLE account for them.
Okay.
Okay. So it can't go ABLE account to special needs trust, but ABLE to ABLE if the person has a disability. Yeah.
So within that organization, as long as it were to stay within Maryland ABLE, it can move laterally.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. And then we did have a question. Can you talk about the Medicaid payback?
Yes. So the Medicaid payback is the part where I was talking about where Maryland Medicaid had signed a letter saying that they will not recoup funds from an ABLE account upon the passing of an ABLE account holder. And that's what they've said. But then they finished the sentence by saying, unless federally mandated to do so. So the federal government could still say, hey, we paid money into this. We gave you money for that nursing home or for that, residential care or whatever. We want our money back and we are going to recoup it from whatever they have left, including an ABLE account. That has not happened to date, but they do reserve the right to do it.
Right. And then I think our last question says, are there any drawbacks in using an ABLE account that we may need to consider before opening one? So we're going to ask you to kind of tell on yourself if there's
Yes,
anything we need to
absolutely.
consider.
Absolutely. What I would say to you is if you think, wow, this sounds like a really cool thing, I like it, I'm going to open my ABLE account, put $25 in it, and then I'm never going to use it. Don't waste your money, because even if you eventually that $8.75 every quarter is going to eat up your $25. Now you have a ABLE account with a zero balance, and you just paid to put money in your ABLE account with a maintenance fee of $8.75 every quarter. You've lost money. I wouldn't do it. And I do see people that get really excited about it. They're like, yeah, I definitely want this. I want this. They put that $25 in there. They don't put anything else on there. They don't use it as a savings account. They don't use it to pay for their expenses. It just, it just dwindles away, because there is a $35 a year maintenance fee. So that would be one thing. The other thing is, if you have the money in your cash savings option, it's a much safer, it's like having the money in a savings account. It's an FDIC insured product. You may not be getting a lot of interest right now. None of the banks, PNC, Bank of America, whoever, whatever you have in your savings account is like, what is it, 0.1% or even lower, whatever the federal interest rate is. But your money is still safe in that account up to whatever it's insured, up to $250,000 or whatever. If you put money in an ABLE account and you choose the investment option, it's a mutual fund that's managed by Vanguard, Maryland ABLE cannot guarantee the success of the stock market. You could put money into the investment option, put it all in investments, the stock market could crash, and there goes your money. You took a risk and you lost it. So I always say, think about, is that a right choice for you? Investing your money. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. We always say, check with a financial advisor, check with your planner, your attorney, whatever is going to be best to suit the need of yourself or your family member with the disability. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also, remember, ABLE accounts $15,000 a year. If you get a large inheritance, you cannot put it in there. This is where a special needs trust comes into play. You really need to think about that as an option. ABLE accounts, we're not in competition with special needs trusts. As a matter of fact, we co-present with a lot of special needs trust attorneys, and we work together. We get emails every day saying, oh, I met with so-and-so, this attorney. I want an ABLE account. I also have a special needs trust, because there's differences in what they do. If you have the special needs trust, then you don't ever have to worry. All those large inheritance, anything can go in a special needs trust. There's no limit on it. However, they can be more costly to set up. You're going to pay an attorney their legal fees to establish these trusts. With an ABLE account, you're paying $35 a year to protect your assets. With a special needs trust, somebody has to serve as the trustee, and there is a lot of work, accounting, reporting that goes into that. With an ABLE account, it's much easier. You don't have to send us a report at the end of the year how you spend your money. You're deciding. You're the one that's going to, if ever audited, sit before the IRS and justify what you use the money for. People have special needs trusts, and they fund the ABLE account every year $15,000, because it's easy to access the funds in your ABLE account. You don't have to go to the trustee, submit a receipt, get reimbursed, put it, it's very, you can use it for anything that supports you in your health, independence, or quality of life. With a special needs trust, certain things, and please don't get me to quote on this, because I don't know if you can buy a car, but you can't buy a house, or maybe it's the opposite way around. But anyway, there's certain guidelines with special needs trusts on what you can spend the money for and how. So we always say they work as good tools together. It is not an either or, but definitely always consult an advisor, whatever's going to work best for you and your family, you know. And also, while I'm talking about different options, you know, if you're considering an ABLE account, we would love for you to be with Maryland ABLE, but more importantly, we want you to just have what works for you. There's a resource available called the ABLE National Resource Center. And if you go to their website, you can actually do a comparison between the different ABLE accounts. Here in Maryland, we have the 3 investment options plus the cash option. If you're a really financially savvy investor, people say, that's not enough for me, guys. I need more options. So you might want to go with a plan like Tennessee that has 11 different investment options, whatever works for you and your family. Some people that live out of state come with Maryland because our fee's only $35 a year as opposed to $150 a year. You just compare. You can run a comparison and pick the criteria. It might be investment strategy, it might be maintenance fees, whatever is important to you. You can select the criteria and run a little query, and it'll give you a comparison where you can compare the different states.
So Kelly, we had 2 questions come in talking about special trusts and ABLE accounts and how they're complementary. Hopefully we can, maybe you can answer this for us. So our question says, can you move money from a special needs trust to an ABLE account? And if so, is that beneficial?
Yes, depending upon the type of trust. And this is where I know there's multiple kinds of trusts, but I do know that a lot of times we will have distributions come from a special needs trust into an ABLE account every year. And the reason they're doing that is because it's really easy to access the funds in the ABLE account. Okay.
Sure.
Especially if the account holder is more independent and doing things out and about in the community. You get that ABLE prepaid card. He or she can buy themselves groceries, can buy themselves clothes. They don't have to go to the trustee and say, will you buy me these clothes and this food? It doesn't go like that. You get that instant access with that prepaid card. You can make your own choices. So people tend to do that. Not everybody does, but it's an option. And we definitely have a fair number of people that want to just have that easy access to the funds.
Sure. And then I'm not sure, I know there are lots of different special needs trusts, but our question said, unlike an ABLE account, do you need to pay taxes on earnings in a special needs trust?
You know, I'm not sure about that.
That's okay.
I really don't know, because there's different ones, there's different types of trust, and maybe some you do and some you don't. The one thing I can just tell you about when you're considering a special needs trust, please go to an attorney. I don't care what attorney it is, but please go to an attorney that has experience with disability law, with a special needs planning attorney, because I can't tell you how many times I have heard, I got this trust set up for my kid, and now I find out it's not the right kind of trust. The Social Security is counting money that's in it. They say they got this trust. It's not the right kind. They spent money. They put money into this trust, and they've jeopardized their benefits. So not just any attorney knows all the disability law. Find someone that does special needs planning, whether it's a financial planner or an attorney, because they know all the laws and all the different types of special needs trusts, so that you don't get yourself in that situation.
Sure. And then we just have one more question. I think this will be our final question of the evening. Just very quickly, I guess, can you give specifics on the tax credit?
So the tax credit, for example, you can take a deduction on your income up to $2,500 if you put $2,500 into an ABLE account. So for my husband and myself, we're taking a $5,000 income deduction on our taxes, because we're putting $5,000 now into the ABLE account per year. My sister, she makes contributions to Lily's ABLE account, Christmas, her birthdays, special time. She probably is contributing maybe $100 to Lily's ABLE account. She can't take a $2,500 deduction. She can only deduct $100. So when you're preparing your taxes, you list that as an income deduction.
Okay.
Taxes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I just wanted to introduce really quickly our CEO, Lynn Elliott. She stopped by and she wanted to say thank you to everyone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lynn Elliott. I'm fortunate to work with Jana, and a huge thank you to Jana and Kelly for this great presentation. I've heard it a couple times, and I learn more every time. So Kelly, we'll have to have you back and back again. But just thank you again for your generous time. Jana, thank you for hosting, and have a wonderful evening. Sorry for my connectivity issues.
Thank you,
No
Lynn, for
problem.
this opportunity. This was awesome to connect with everyone that's on the call. And I really appreciate Abilities Network hosting this for families and people in the community and making it available. And I'm happy to come back anytime.
Well, we were so glad to have you. And then I just wanted to let everyone know we are going to be emailing the presentation, or a link to the presentation. It's going to be on our website soon. And we will be emailing a copy of Kelly's presentation slides. So if you registered for the event at anevents@abilitiesnetwork.org, if you have already registered, you'll be on that email. If you haven't registered and you showed up, that's wonderful. But if you would like a copy of the slides, just send us an email at that address and we'll make sure that we get that to you. I'm going to turn off the recording now, and we all had a wonderful night. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And then, yeah, I hope you all learned a lot. I know I learned a lot. So thank you again, Kelly.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.